Yes.
So, Chadenne, thank you so much for talking with me from Cairo. I think it's so incredible that we live in a time when we can do this. We don't pay any money, we see each other, we talk. It's kind of miraculous.
It is like the fun, amazing part of the internet. It's
Right.
my favorite part when I meet new people from all over the globe and without doing this much as you had to do earlier.
Right. Yeah. I was in Egypt in 2011 and I was writing a book about youth activism. So I got to be in Tahrir Square and interview people there. I have some videos on my YouTube from Tahrir Square. And then I went snorkeling in the Red Sea and had all kinds of adventures. It was a great trip. So do you live in Cairo or where along the Nile or where do you live?
No, I live in Cairo, but I'm not like close to the Nile or anything. I'm living in the more industrial area of Cairo because my school is here, my mom's job is here, and stuff like this. But we, as usual, we all travel all over Egypt. As a family, we are very, how can I say this? We move around a lot. So we've been to the Nile multiple times. Like right now, I can just like hop on a car, go to the Nile, have like a river side meal or something. And this is one of the very good things about being in Cairo is that you're very flexible. Yes, it is a humongous travel and traffic. It's like the traffic here is insane. But at the end of the day, it's very easily to reach out to other parts of the city and stuff like this. And I really enjoyed living here.
Yeah, it's culturally rich, obviously. It amazed me when I was in Cairo because there'd be 4 traffic lanes, but 5 lanes of cars. So people
Yeah,
don't pay any attention
this is
to.
like our thing. This is what we do. Like over time, even like the car lanes, the stripes on the street itself, it fades away, and people like I know we can fit 5 cars in this lane, so we're doing that. We
And it's
don't
a
care about anything else.
and as a consequence, a lot of cars have dents in them from where they've been little hits.
This this dance and hits and stuff like this, I do believe it's not because like we all have like 5 lane in a 4 lane highway or something. It's because how people drive. Like it has nothing with the lanes because for the lanes it just gives you more of a space area as of a safe area for your car. And without these lanes, you can have like a pretty good area for your car. It's not the safest one, but it's a good one. You can merge in it, like you can walk in it, stuff like that.
Mm.
But it's a very peaceful ride.
Oh my. Where and when were you born? Were you born in Cairo?
No, actually, I was born in Alexandria.
Oh.
I lived there for like 5 years, I guess. I do believe so. And then we moved to Cairo for my parents' work and stuff like this. And I was born on the 29th of October 2002.
So that makes you a Scorpio.
Next, yeah, I'm a Scorpio.
Uh-huh. And so I think of Scorpio people as being intense, deep emotions, maybe seem very calm on the surface, maybe have some difficulty expressing those deep emotions. Does that apply to you at all?
It does apply to me big time because I'm a very hard, I'm not very good at expressing my feelings. I express them in a more professional way. Like I always avoid emotional connections with people that I barely know, but I'm always looking for a deep connection with people because I don't want to know a person and just like know their name or something like that. I want to know who you are. I'm always looking into people's feeling, trying to connect with them on a more spiritual way than just like a bill or something that we're doing. Like when I talk to people, new people, I want to always know about them more, not just know their name. Like, what do you do? What's your hobby? How are you in life and stuff like this? And how are you is a very, very important question that people forget to ask others. And it's like one of my most important questions. Like, if I know how you really are right now, it will help me how to deal with you right now. So it's a thing I always go to when I'm talking to people.
In the States, people always say, "How are you?" but they only expect fine. They don't really mean it.
Yeah, so when people tell me fine like that, I'm just like, I guess you're not open to tell me how are you really feeling. And sometimes people are actually fine. Like, some people have their own mental battles when they're walking down the street, and some others are actually, I'm good, I'm happy, I'm in a happy state of mind. So this is a tricky answer. Like, you don't know it. Do you really mean it, or do you need help? Like, tell me if you want anything.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
I have one younger brother. He's 4 years younger than me, and that's it.
And that is such an interesting thing to me, because in books where I've kept track, firstborns are the most common in terms of being leaders. So in this book with Climate Girls, way more firstborn and only born girls than others. And what's really interesting to me is I saw a study as a firstborn girl that firstborn girls who have close or respect their fathers respect them, they're really high achievers. So the girls are kind of encouraged by their fathers, who are more often supportive of the daughter than the wife. They're okay with the wife being in traditional roles, but they want the daughter to achieve.
Maybe that I don't know. I've never heard of this study, so I do not really know about it. But it's very common here in in the world that daughters are like more friends with their fathers, and sons are more friends with their mothers and stuff like this. But actually, for me, it's the completely opposite. My mother is the one who pushed me to do new things, go into new experiences, having more friends, talking more, speaking for myself, self-confidence, enriching my talents, my hobbies, and stuff like this. So for me, it's actually the complete opposite. My mom is my backbone. She's my whole thing. Like, she did me. She's the one who brought me to who I am today. So I don't know if this. I know a lot of people who are really connected with their fathers, and like their fathers are their support system and stuff like this. But for me, it's a different story.
Did your mother, was she able to go to university herself?
Yes, my mom did go to university. While actually I was born, like, she gave birth to me when she was at the first year of university, I guess. Yeah, first year of university, she gave birth to me, and she studied English literature in the Alexandria University.
Mm. Is that how your English got so good?
Yeah, it's mostly because of her and because of my family and my community. We always use English ever since we were kids. I was basically raised on listening to Whitney Houston, Toni Braxton. The music I listened to as a little kid was Beethoven and Mozart and stuff like this. So I was raised very differently from people my age. And like, you'll find very minimal people like me who were raised on Mozart and Beethoven, Toni Braxton, Whitney Houston, Backstreet Boys, Michael Jackson. Like, these are my jams. These are my childhood songs. So people here in Egypt and mostly around the world get very surprised that my jam, my songs are "I Will Always Love You." It's black and white. It's like something from Mozart or something like that. These are the songs that brings me childhood. They're not the songs that are like a classical music kind of thing. No, these are my childhood songs.
Did you go to private schools? I'm asking because when I was in Egypt, so many people told me the government schools are not good, they're not well funded, the teachers don't teach because they want to make money tutoring students after school, the classes are large.
Yeah. So there's like this huge difference between Egypt and the United States in this area specifically. Over here, our governmental schools are the worst schools in town. Every class has about like 60, 70 students in them and like 10 chairs, something like that. They have a lot, minimal resources for too many people who cannot afford to go to private schools. And some actually, like I've been to I've visited some governmental schools, and I've sat with some teachers, and some teachers are actually really good, and they want to help these people learn, and they want to enrich them with a new language and new method in math, science, or something like this. But the environment these kids has grown in, it's very minimal when you find a kid who's actually willing to learn. Like, it's very hard for them because they have to work from an early age, because if their mother is sick, their father is sick, they live in a poor area, they want to grow, they want to be better, and somehow most of them, not all of them to be honest, find their way into the criminal side of life, and like being I don't know, anything that's not legal is very easy to be done, and they get caught and they get trials and stuff like this, but for some reason they never stop. Like, it's a weird thing of how things function. But here, if you're like a middle class, economically middle class family, or an A class family or stuff like this, we all go to private schools, and private schools here go from like a cheap private school that has good teachers to the most expensive private school that has better teachers, teachers from abroad. The director itself is not Egyptian and stuff like that.
Mm.
I personally went to a French school, a private French school,
Oh, mon Dieu.
here in Egypt.
J'ai dit mon Dieu parce que je veux parler français avec vous un petit peu.
Ah, tu avais un très bel accent.
Ah, merci, vous aussi. Merci. And then, where are you in your education now?
Right now, I just graduated the school.
Congratulations.
I was a grader. I just went out of school finally, finished with high school, and now I'm waiting for the new semester in college to begin, so I can be a university kid.
And what university, may I ask, are you going to attend?
Okay, so I'm attending the university called CIC, which is the Canadian International College.
Oh.
And I'm studying business information system, which is computer science and business in one major.
Right. And why did you pick that major? What drew you to business info?
Well, I always loved the business industry because it's very enriched and it's very it's never ending, you know. Yeah, you will always have something to do with business on the way. Like, you have to know how to market your stuff, you have to know how to financially aid yourself and stuff like this. So I think business is a really good study. But then I know that the future is all technological. Everything is going to technology, and everything is being remotely done. Everything is going through a new era of technology. So computer science was my other option. And when I found the major that has both of my options, I said, like, that was made for me.
Yes.
So
perfect.
I love it.
Can you live at home when you go to university, or do you need to live in a dormitory or something like that?
No, here in Egypt, the ones who live in dorms are the ones who go to another city. Like, say, for example, I want to go to a university in Alexandria, and my family lives in Cairo. So over there, either I get an apartment for myself, or I go to the university dorm. Right here, it's very easy to live at home and go to university, and we do not have this idea of moving to a dorm every time we're going to university, because I have a part of my family who lives in America. They live in New York City. Their son is my age, and he's going to live in another dorm in another city to go to complete his like passion and studies and stuff like this. And lucky for me, I found the one I want really close to home. Like, it's 10 minutes away car ride from home. So
perfect.
Lucky me.
Yeah, perfect. What are 3 words to describe you? For someone who doesn't know you, how would you describe your personality?
I'm a very people-oriented person. I am very pragmatic and very supportive to people at the same time.
Mm-hmm. How did you get involved with climate activism? What kind of awoke you to the issue?
Well, as a kid, I was a very curious kid most of the times. I always watched movies like 2012, the world ending, climate collapse, and stuff like this. And I was like, I always had this question, if you can anticipate that there is a climate problem that's going to end the world one day, why aren't you doing something? Like, where is the other effect where you're gonna have a movie that says, well, we did something, we ended climate solutions, so we prevented all of these things that people anticipated? Because in the movies, they actually have theoretical studies that they use, but they're very realistic at the same time. Like, this actually could happen, not at this big scale, but it will happen somehow. Like, the ozone, it has this big hole in it, and why aren't you doing something to reduce that? And for a matter of fact, I always have this question in my mind, and it never left me. But through time, I forgot about climate solution, and then in my high school years, I came back to reading more about the climate solution and the climate disaster happening, and how can people help. Like, I started to read more about what can I do to help reduce this, other than reading where's the problem and how it came. After that, I spent a lot of time like studying on my own what happened and how it happened and how can I help and stuff like this. At the time, I joined Rotary organization under the Interact Club Cairo Royal here in Egypt, and I just knew at this time that I can do something different through this organization, because it's a global organization. It's very helpful. It's done for the people, to the people, and stuff like this. I felt like it was a wake up moment for me that I can do something, even though like I was at the time when I joined, I was like 17 or 16, and I felt like I'm 16 and I can do something to make a difference. So we started to have projects about telling people more about the climate disaster, asking people to reduce the single-use plastics, and giving them other things they can use other than that. We went to shops and told them, please don't use the single-use plastic. You can have one who's biodegradable, or you can have the paper ones, and we gave them context to people. So I'm not just telling them there's a problem and you need to find a solution. We went on an idea of, I tell you there's a problem, I will tell you there's a solution, and I will give you the context to this solution. And I was very surprised by the people knowing that there is a climate problem, but they never reached a solution. They never knew that there's a solution to all of these things, that it's not this expensive for shops and stuff like that. So they were very optimistic about it. They were very helpful. They said they're going to help and stuff like that. We went to 10 shops, I guess, that day, and I visited 3 of them after like a month or something, and I found them actually changed their bags to biodegradable plastic bags, and one shop changed it to a paper bag, and another shop that couldn't get away from the plastic, but they had offered the people that take one bag of plastic and put everything on it, and do not take 60 packs of plastic. And they told people you can come with your own shopping bag, so you can get everything in it. So I felt very proud in this moment that I helped doing something different. Even if like 3 places did respond to this, and not all the 10, but I was very happy with them. Even if one did do something different, so I've reached the goal in my life. So I was very proud of my team and myself and everything we've done this far. So 16, and I've done that, so why not keep on going with all of the things we can do. And like right now, 16-year-olds, 13-year-olds, teens, and people who are still in school, they're doing so much, and not everyone can hear them or see them, but recently people have become more and more aware of our power, about what we can do at this age. We're not just kids hanging around. There are some people, we have fun, we do mistakes and stuff like that, but we still do think about our future. So this is the fun part for me.
How are you organizing and informing people in the pandemic when I assume you're not doing group activities?
Yeah, so during the pandemic, we had like a very slow down, hold back plans, and we canceled a lot of things, a lot of projects that were going to be amazing actually in Egypt. We tried our best to do some online campaigns telling people more about the plastic and how bad it is, and we gave them alternatives to do stuff. We felt very happy, and we had like this brainstorming we did, that we found out like a lot of cafeterias and restaurants in Egypt trying to go green. This was like a moment for us where we found out like we're actually doing something big. If it's not us, but it's someone in our age who did something bigger than what we did, and we are helping on a small scale or on a big scale. We are all helping each other globally, and it was just like a moment where we found out like we do not actually have to convince them about something very weird for them. For them, it became, yeah, I know about the climate solution, and I know about the climate disaster, and I know that there is the bamboo hairbrush, and there is like metal straws I can use. And we started to see restaurants and places offering like the takeaway cups. It's biodegradable. So after, like, if you leave it for 2-3 months in water, it will dissolve itself. And they're doing it on a more safe way for like vegetables and stuff like this, so it doesn't a chemical reaction with them. And some places offer you a reusable cup, so you buy the cup from them, and then you come back with the same cup, and they will fill it to you. They don't mind. Some restaurants started to say, if you want to bring your own cup, a cup from your home, you can do that. And we were just very happy with what we saw, because it was like a huge change in a very short period of time. Or like all of a sudden, we found out a lot of places are actually trying to go green, and it became like a very cool thing to be green. So we were very happy with that, even though some people are going green just for the cool part, not for the climate disaster part, but it's still doing an effect, so why not?
How polluted is the Nile at this point?
It's very polluted. It is very, very polluted. So actually, the pollution of the Nile started to reduce on a very small scale, but it is reducing for a short period of time. We try to keep on contact with the pollution in the Nile, but it's very hard because the Nile is very big and it's very long. It's like across the whole country. So we try to clean up parts of it, but these parts keep getting more from another city, from another part of the country. So it's very difficult to determine about the Nile exactly how it is polluted, because there's a lot of factors that pollute it and a lot of factors that helps cleaning it, but still not very effective.
There's a big difference between Upper Egypt and the countryside and Cairo and Alexandria. What do you hear about people's awareness and activism in smaller towns and in Upper Egypt?
Well, I can tell you this: in the most of Cairo, Giza, and let's say Sharm el-Sheikh or Garda'a, Dahab, the places where there's more tourism in it, this is where you find people who are more open to the climate disaster. These are the people who you find very open into going green and stuff like this for the global interactions with them and people from other countries and stuff like this helps them develop in a different way. But if you go to like Said, Noba, Upper Egypt, these people are not more aware of the situation. They know there's a lot of pollution. They know there's a lot of stuff, but they do not know how can they stop it. They do not know how big it actually is and how effective it is to the world. But recently, people from Cairo and Alexandria and places like this who knows more started to travel to these places and started to giving them educational courses of how the world is polluted right now and how can we help as an individual. And people are getting very hard to respond to this, but they are responsive at the same time. So it's hard to convince them, but they're convincible. Like you can reach places with them, but on a very small, slow scale. So we're hoping for a good deed happening soon, that someone is going to get convinced 100% and someone is going to actually do something. And we're actually trying to make them more educated about the problem itself first, and then we start giving them solution, and then we start giving them alternatives and start helping them. But most of them knows for a start that Cairo and Giza, it's a very industrial place, so it's very polluted because of the factories around. This is what they know, so they have the idea of pollution, but they do not have the idea of how big this pollution is. So we're hoping for the best, actually.
What's the position of the government? The government is mainly President El-Sisi. What he believes and says kind of goes. What's his approach? Does he acknowledge the climate crisis? Does he have a plan?
Well, nobody knows the answer of this question. To be honest, we see him very interested in building a new city in Alamein city. He's building that. It's a very uprising city. It's very industrial. It's very modern. It's very new to the place, and we haven't seen much about the climate disaster, but we've seen much about helping the health of the Egyptians in Upper Egypt and Said and places that are poor in kind of way, less enriched with money and economical stages. We've seen that, but I personally haven't heard anything about doing anything to the climate itself. So I'm not really sure. But the government is very supportive when we go take, what was it called? Like, take an permission to do something that is related to the climate. They do not tell us no, or they do not tell us don't do that, or what is that. They are very understandable of what we're trying to do. And right now in Egypt, there's a lot of clubs who are rising up about the climate, and I guess maybe on some kind of scale they will start doing something as a government itself, not just giving us authorities to do stuff.
There's a new organization that I read about that's to educate youth about climate called Mona. Tell us about that group?
Well, I recently also heard about them. I know that Noura Abdul Ghaffar, I guess it's her name, she's the one who did this initiative. And I was actually trying to reach them for a collaboration between us and them and stuff like that, but we haven't really connected. So what I know about the place is that it's trying its best to give people more information about the climate disaster in simple Arabic words. They're not like hard words that not anyone can understand, and they're trying to make it as simple as it can be in a language side, so that anyone can understand it, like the doorman can understand it and the president can understand it, the one in the A class school can understand it, and the one in the governmental class can understand it. So this is I guess it's a very good initiative from her, and I really hope to reach her soon.
So it's a private initiative rather than a government initiative.
Yeah, it is. It's very private. The government support these initiatives, but they're not governmental initiatives.
Got it. In your team that works in Interact, what about how many are there? How many about are young women? Tell us about the team.
Okay, so I was an interactor until last year. I switched to Rotaract because of the age difference. And when you turn 18, you go to Rotaract. So this is why I switched. But in the Interact team, it's mostly women, to be honest with you. Like, girls are the ones who are in the team. Like, if we would say the team is 30 people, 20 or 22 of them are women, and the rest are boys that are not very effective. Like, we have boys who are very supportive and they active and they do a lot of things and they're very passionate about it. But in other ways, these boys are sometimes like not as active as the girls. They are not as passionate as the girls. The girls like give everything from their soul and body and mental and everything to get to this project, to do this thing, to have this permission. But the boys, they're just like, yeah, we're gonna do that. We're gonna help. If you need anything, just give us a call or something. But when we do need them, they always show up. They're always here, and I love that. And even when I switched to Rotaract, I started to see more boys, more guys in the club. So from maybe my last meeting, I can tell you that we had a meeting yesterday, and that meeting we had like about 20 people there, and there was like 10 boys, 12 boys, and the rest are girls. So I was very proud of this moment that I can see guys actually trying to do something good, trying to do charity work, trying to do climate work and stuff like that. So this was like a moment for me that I realized that there's actually young men who are willing to help in the climate disaster, not just women.
Why do you think it is that around the world, I would say usually 60 to 70% of the activist groups are young women? What's going on with the men?
Well, I really don't know if there's a study about this, but I've heard that there is a study why women are more in the leadership positions now rather than men. But I would like to blame it that right now we are finally heard and taken serious. Like, at the past few years, we started to see women moving the world, running for president and stuff like that. They're in the government. They're doing huge movements globally, not just on a small scale in the group that you know and stuff like that. So I would like to say that the media, the social platforms and stuff like that started to put more lights on women, because this is the different part in our generation. Women started to speak up. They are not underestimated anymore. They have their voices. They are loud when they talk, and everyone can hear them. So I would like to blame it on social media and media itself, that they gave us an opportunity to be more heard rather than before.
Mm-hmm. Do you think of yourself as a feminist?
I am. I practically hope like everyone is, because there's this very, very wrong meaning of feminism that people know, that being a feminist doesn't mean I want to kill men around the world. I wanna like burn them alive or something like that. I want to take their positions and have their lives and stuff like that. Being a feminist is being equal to the other gender. It's not identical, but it is okay for a woman to have to lift heavy stuff. She's not weird. She's just a woman. She can do that on herself. And it's okay for a man to sit home and take care of the babies. It's not a problem. We are equal in this stuff. And my point of feminism is not that I want to replace men or I want to be a man or something like that, as people understand. Feminism is more about that I do not want to see a man taking a privilege or an advantage in society or work just because he's a man. if he's better than me at my work, okay, he can take the promotion. But if he's not better and he just took the promotion because he's a guy, then what are you doing? This is not good, and this is not okay, and this is not acceptable. And this, for me, is feminism. We're not here to kill men and destroy their existence. We are here to be treated as we should be treated. Like, if I'm good at something, acknowledge my goodness and state that I'm good, and do not just hide it because I'm a woman. And for a guy who like wrote something cool, he gets the whole vibe and everything, the fame and everything, and now you wrote something really important and you just tell me, you're a woman, you will not handle fame good, and stuff like that. I've heard about multiple and many stories about women being discriminated in their jobs and workspace because just she's a woman. And this is what makes me furious, and because I'm a woman, I can do industrial things. I can handle machines. I can ride the car. Who said a woman can't ride the car? Like, I can do that. I can go to race. I can participate in the Formula One. And why can't I? Just because I'm a woman, I can't ride or something like that? So this is the part that people need to understand. We're not, as feminists, as a feminism movement, we're not trying to replace men. We're just trying to take away the part where they have advantages over us just because he's a man. If you're good, you're good. If you're bad, you're bad. It's an end deal. It's nothing that to be discussed, you know. This is what makes me very feeling weird about it.
Under President Mubarak, his wife Suzanne led women's organizations supposedly for women's equality, but they were pretty superficial, and there were lots of stories of like she'd open a school and then it would close and she'd come back a year later. But then under El-Sisi, women's feminist groups were shut down. They weren't allowed to speak. So I'm wondering what's going on with that.
Well, at the era of Mubarak and Suzanne, I was a very little kid, so I really don't know much about this part. But I know she's done a lot of things in the books. I've read that she's done a lot of things for women and women empowerment. And for Sisi, I do not think the last thing he did this like charity medical checkup and medical I don't know how to say it in English, but it's like a medical thing that he did to help women specifically. So I don't think he's discriminating women as much as he's not paying much attention. I think this is the part, because he's done a huge campaign for medical assistance to women, specifically women in Egypt. It's like a free medical checkup with very symbolic numbers that are not like the actual numbers of the medicine, stuff like that. So I think he's trying to do something, but he's not doing it on a big scale, or he's not giving them his all attention and stuff like that.
I was really excited to be in Egypt in 2011 because the youth were the ones who got Mubarak out of power after 30 years or whatever it was. It was the youth who organized the campaign, the uprising that got him out. And I think that the youth movement has been kind of silenced lately.
Well, I would like to take 2011 as not just a revolution over politics, it was a revolution over youth taking over. This is when we started to be more heard, the youth started to lead more, and this is when we broke our silence. This is when we started to speak up for ourselves, not just wait for the grown-ups to do it. So as I heard and read and got educated about this revolution, because I knew that there's a revolution at the time, but I did not understand how big of scale it was. We had a curfew. I was at home most of the time, and I was very little, so I did not understand. Like, I was watching Tom and Jerry or SpongeBob or something. So I was not into politics, and I did not understand what was the word revolution means. I knew that there is some people who are upset of because of the government, and they're doing something to change that, to change the government that they believed at the time it was very bad or it was very unethical or stuff like that. So I did not actually understand it unless like from 2 3 years ago I started to have this full image of how powerful and how amazing job we did. Because as a youth, as a teenager now, I'm very proud of what teenagers did at back, and they're really powerful. They're really good. People sacrifice their life to change the country. So what better thing can you do? It's amazing. And civilians, they're not from the military or they're not trained to do stuff like that. So that's amazing for me.
I have an interview on my YouTube channel with some of the college students who were in Tahrir Square who spent the night there, and I was they translated for me an interview I did with a factory worker who didn't speak English, who was from Upper Egypt, and she came to Cairo by herself. You know, she was an unmarried factory worker, and she was so passionate that she came and slept in Tahrir Square in the tents, which was so unusual and unheard of for a young woman to do. It was very exciting times.
It was a revolutionary time for humanity here in Egypt. Even it was a revolutionary time for feminism, for youth leading, for speaking up for what is right and speaking up for yourself. It's not just about politics. This revolution changed a lot in the people themselves. And as you said, there's like, before this revolution, women could not sleep one night in the bare air on themselves. Like, this was the weirdest thing that could happen. But then after that, it became more okay. It became more normal, as long as you're safe and you're okay with it and your family's okay with it. So why not? Like right now, it's very, before the revolution and before this whole thing, people were very, they did not understand how could a family send their daughters abroad to have better education and stuff like that. But right now, when you look around, every family is looking onto how can we send our children outside? How can we make them have their own voices, have their own opinions? They should not be following the leads or someone else. They should have their own opinion, their own perspective of things. So it changed a lot in the people themselves more than it changed in the government.
What issues do you hear youth talking about now? Is it the economy, the lack of jobs? What would you say youth issues are currently in Egypt?
Well, currently in Egypt, it's of course the lack of jobs for the people who were not fortunate enough to have an education that gives them something like a dual program education, or you get a degree from Canada, America, Ukraine, even London, whatever. People who have experience with foreign countries on any scale, like if you take a degree from there, MBA, just have relationships abroad. This gives you a privilege in Egypt more than the people who just had like the governmental education and the governmental university education, and they've only dealt with Egyptians and what Egyptians do and think and stuff like that. So we have a privilege as people who are multilingual and can do a lot of stuff at the same time, who've met people from abroad, who've done things abroad, who've went abroad, who've had certain education abroad. This gives us privilege more than the people who've never been outside of Egypt, more than the people who've never had a chance to have a better education, to be bilingual at least, and to have English as their second language, or French, German, Spanish, anything. But also at the same time, they're fighters. They fight for their lives. They fight for a better life. And I would like to think that actually the youth here are very strong. They're very strong and very independent, and they fight every day, not a fight, a physical fight. They fight mentally, emotionally, with everyone and everything, and every move they make, they try their best and they try in the hardest way to do something different, to do something good for them, something good for their selves and their family, to upgrade their lifestyle and stuff like that. So it's a problem, but it is solvable in some kind of way. And I'm very proud of the youth here, to be honest. They're all trying to do something good on every scale. If you're like the daughter of the minister, or if you're the daughter of a worker in a factory, we are all doing the same. We are all trying to do the same, and we're all fighting for what's right and what's good for us.
What what international youth-led climate groups do you look to? Do you follow on social media that you're inspired or informed by, besides Rotary?
Right now I'm the Egyptian ambassador of CSC, the Climate Solution Coalition, which is a youth-led group of people that started in Paris, I guess, and we are under the umbrella of Rotary, but we are more with SRAG, which is a partition in Rotary, and we are just youth-led, and we are too many people around the world. Like, we have people from Argentina, Spain, London, Paris. We have people from California, Arizona, and a lot of places. Like, we're all over the world, and we are all trying to do one thing, which is help in the climate disaster, and which is help people get more educated about this. And we just started 2 years ago, and I just joined last year. They reached me for Egypt and stuff like that, and I'm really hoping and very optimistic about what we can do, because we've been through a lot until we came here, until we reached this point. So I think we're doing just fine.
Do you communicate on a regular basis on on social media, or how does the international group stay cohesive?
Well, we all have like a WhatsApp group that we communicate on almost every other day. Whenever we can, whenever someone has an idea, we reach out. Whenever we want to say something, even we're just checking on each other. Like, after this very unfortunate bomb that happened in Lebanon, we checked on our Lebanon ambassadors. We all did call them, and we tried to give them as much emotional help and support that we could. And for anyone who could help physically or was in the area or something like that, we did contact everyone to make sure that they're all okay. And thank God they were all okay with their families. They were away from the bombs. So this made me feel how connected the youth are, and how we are very close on ending this. I don't like to call it racism, but like differentiation between people based on their race and their religion and their country and stuff like that. So I think we're doing an amazing job just from this small things we're doing.
In your conversations, is it all youth? I know there's a woman in New York who kind of helps as an advisor to the Climate Solutions group. How active is she as an adult mentor? How much is youth?
Well, we try our best not to reach out to her as many times as we can. We try to figure out the solution of whatever we're trying to do on our own. And if we're stuck in a thing we cannot do without her, we always reach out to her, and she's always very helpful. And she's a very optimistic person, and she loves what we're doing. And she always leads us to not give us like the solution directly. She tells us clues on how to find the good solution to what we're in or what we're doing right now. So she's very helpful, and she's really good. And we do not contact her as much, but we always keep her updated.
Mm-hmm. So was this group started by Julia in France, Julia Cazo, or did Rotary start it? How did it get started 2 years ago?
It was by Julia. She started it, and Rotary supported it. She reached out to the Rotarian family, and they helped her because of Julia and what she did. Actually, the Rotary had a sick area of focus globally, which is environmental and climate solution. So we're very proud, even though we haven't done much on the past 2 years, because she was still reaching out to people, searching people who are willing to help, collecting the team. We've done a huge thing when we added another area of focus to everyone in the Rotary family to know that there's something else we need to focus on other than the other stuff we're into. And it's very as important as everything else is.
When, let's say, Fridays for Future is planning a big strike September 2020, and will you coordinate with them and strike and demonstrate in that Fridays for Future school strike way?
Well, we don't have anything planned yet, so I don't really know now what we're going to do. But I think if we're going to do something, it's going to be like a minimal thing, because we are all now in a transition area in our personal lives. We're all moving from Interact to Rotaract, from schools to college, from college to work and stuff like that. So we're in a transition area in everything globally. There's a lot happening in the world right now, and everyone is like caught up in everything that's happening in their personal life as a country or as an individual. So right now we're just like we're slowing everything down, because when we do something, we want to do it right. We don't just want to do something to say we did a lot of stuff.
In those WhatsApp conversations, about what percentage are women, young women?
Well, young women are a lot. I can say we're like 60% or 70% of this group is women. The ones who are active, but at the same time, the men in it are very active and very helpful and very passionate about what's happening. So I guess as much as they're like the minimal amount, they're very helpful. You don't feel like they're minimal. You feel like they're just as good as us.
Around the world, young women, especially climate activists, get trolls, negative comments. Oh, you're just a pawn of these adults. You're not really capable of doing these kind of changes. Do you get any of that kind of opposition or not?
Well, I personally didn't face anything like that. Thank God. The people I deal with and the people I talk with are very open and very actually happy with what I'm doing. They even help me reach out to bigger, more responsible people of a lot of governmental things, so they can make a lot of things easier for me to deal with and stuff like that. And actually, I've never felt any kind of discrimination in whatever I'm doing. So that's a good thing. I think we are somehow in this community ending this discrimination on a scale. So it's a very good thing.
Mm-hmm. Say a word about the influence of Islam. Like your grandmother, probably they didn't wear hijab, but now it's like a lot of young women wear hijab. So it's changed. The women, your grandmothers used to wear, short skirts and high heels and those kind of Western clothes. What's happening with that?
Well, when it comes to that, just a second, my phone is gonna die, so I have to charge it. Okay. Okay, when it comes to that part, actually, my family is a very religious family. So ever since the beginning, all the women had hijab on. They did not have this black and white movie style kind of clothes all the time, but they did have it at the same time. So it was a balance between both, like her mother and her mother's mother, and my grandma. These people are the ones who did not even know about hijab. Like, they did not even know it was possible, and the fashion industry in Egypt did not even help them at the time to have a lot of stuff that are hijab appropriate. Actually, my family used to travel to Saudi Arabia to buy themselves some clothes, and they used to tailor their own clothes with some tailors so that they can have them in the right length, in the right width, and stuff like that. And I think that Islam itself is the very it helps us be more open about helping people, because it's a part of our religion that we are asked to help people whenever we could. We are asked to be kind to each other, to smile in each other's faces, even if there's nothing to smile about. Like, just have a good laugh, smile at the person. Do not, if you don't have something good to say, then just don't say anything. This is one of our rules, as not rules, as our beliefs as in Islam and stuff like that. So we are very optimistic, and we are asked to help people most of the time. So we find it very easily for us to do charity work because it's a part of our religion and it's a part of our beliefs.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the Prophet's first wife was a businesswoman, older than him, proposed to him. His youngest wife is quoted in scripture. She was very influential as a theologian. So it's odd to me that there's the original tradition of strong women involved in public life versus something like Saudi Arabia, where they have a branch of Wahhabi Islam where it wasn't until last year or so that women were allowed to drive, whereas Muhammad's first wife drove a camel.
Exactly. So this is like the differences between countries. The Middle Eastern countries are in this part, especially in women's rights. This is where Egypt peak, because in Egypt we are, I believe from what I know and what I read and learned, Egypt is the one who gave women the right from the beginning till now, and they're giving them more. Because in Saudi Arabia, a girl could not travel without her husband, brother,
guardians.
Her guardians. She could not drive a car anywhere. She could not ride a bike and stuff like that. As much as she became a woman, she cannot do that. As long as she's a little kid and she's like a little infant kid driving around having fun, this she could do. But for some good reasons, these things are finally changing in Saudi Arabia, and it's all for good. Like, nothing is happening for someone is forcing someone to do something. Like, they finally got convinced that women are the leading power, and they can do more, and they are very capable of doing a lot of things. So I guess they finally just understood how big it is. So they started to give them some more opportunities to do a lot of good stuff.
Well, I think it's economically driven because the prince wants to have less reliance on foreign workers and to develop the economy, which means he needs to have Saudi women work. So it's an economic motivation for him.
Well, I'm not really well educated about this point, because I don't know much about what's happening now politically in Saudi Arabia. But if it is like that, so I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I know that he has a plan, and whoever does a plan, they should be studying a lot before they actually start executing this plan. So I hope if this is a plan, it's a bigger plan, it's a part of a bigger plan that's very good for their society and their country. If it is, then it's a good thing to be done, and I'm all up for women trying to work in the Saudi industry, because it was very hard before.
Yeah, right. In traditional families, the families like to arrange marriages. Was that true for your parents' marriage, that the families were involved, Or was it what the Indians call a love marriage?
The whole traditional family meeting each other, getting their daughter and son getting married, is a thing that's still happening till this day. But it's not as frequent as it used to be. Like before, it was just like that. Like it was very abnormal if some two strangers fell in love and decided to get married. That was like, what are you doing? And how did you do that? It was like, who does that? And now it is very common to two people know each other more and fall in love and start to build this relationship together and then involve their family in the relationship when they're very serious about it and start to make their families get along and they fight for their love to accept each other and accept two families. And for my parents, it was a love arranged marriage. It was not like arranged 100%, but the families did know each other, and my father asked my mother's hand in marriage before they went on their first date, and then they went on their first date and started falling in love, and this is how it went. For me, my mom is very supportive for me to fall in love, have a relationship with someone, and if he's good enough, if I can live with this person and I feel very safe and well treated and respected, and he's also feeling the same, then why not get married and have a very good life together? Like, she's not pushing me to get married because her sister's son is good for marriage now, so yeah, let's get the two families together. And no, it's like we are fighting for love right now, and everyone started to believe more in love and in not arranged marriage, but like the families has to agree to this marriage too. So we don't have this rebel love marriage as much as US and the other countries do.
Traditionally, in Islamic families, dating was frowned upon. People weren't supposed to date. They were supposed to wait for more intimacy when they were married. Has that changed?
No, it has not changed. In Islamic families, they do not accept the idea of dating as it is in US. Like, we do not kiss in public if we're not married. We do not. It's preferable if we don't touch hands. But if you want to build a friendship with a guy, you can do that. If you feel like this friendship is leading to more than just a friendship, start talking to your families about how you feel so they can guide you, so you won't do something that is religiously forbidden for us to do. Like, we cannot have any kind of intercourse with any male or female genders, or like from male to female. We cannot have any kind of intimate intercourses at any way before marriage.
Right.
So they always try to help us find love without doing something that is religiously unaccepted.
Got it. Changing the subject a little bit, earlier social movements, feminist movements, were really influenced by books, like Betty Friedan's The Feminine Mystique, or Simone de Beauvoir's The Second Sex, or Rachel Carlson's Silent Spring. And I wondered, it seems like for your generation, Z, they mostly get their information from social media, but are there books that were really influential for you?
Well, for me personally, I still read books, but I do not read books about a specific subject. But my main area is where I read books about self-acceptance and more psychological ways of saying stuff. Like, I do not read about a love story for just the sake of a love story. I can see it in a movie, so why should I read this? But I read a love story on a psychological level, like how her brain functioned during this love story, and how his brain functioned during this moment when they had this first eye exciting moment, and where they had their first touch, and when they had their like first dance and stuff like this. I'm more into psychology and more into knowing what's behind every movement and what's behind every feeling, and how does your brain function in certain situations. Because for me, it makes me easier to deal with people. It makes me more understanding of when they're in anger, or when they're sad, or when they're very happy, or when they're like their brain doesn't function the same as they used to be, because they're in this situation in their mind where they do not want to think, they just want to feel the happy moment they're in. So for me, this is how different I became from reading, and this helped me a lot in my personal life and in my professional life too. So for me, it's psychological books, and books who come from a true story, not just book that somebody made up in their mind and started to put it in a book. So I love to read about that when it's books and in Arabic. And for women empowerment and stories about changing the world and stuff like this, I love to read it on social media, because it's easier to reach out, and it's easier to make sure it's actually authentically right. It's not something that somebody made up. And it's easier for me to do this English books and stuff like this on social media and on my phone, because practically we live through our phones at certain points. So it's easier for me to do that.
What social media do you use mainly? Like, it seems that usually around the world it's Twitter and Instagram.
Well, for me, I don't use Twitter at all. Like, I have an account that I forgot its password, and I really didn't care about getting it back, because I did not like how Twitter functioned. I did not understand it. And for me, I mostly spend my time on Instagram, Facebook, and the internet itself, like Safari or like Google Chrome or something like this. And for educational purposes, I spend more time on YouTube and doing meetings on Zoom, and entering online courses that are from abroad or from here and stuff like that. So I'm basically all over the place. Like I'm everywhere. You can find me everywhere except of Twitter. Like I cannot deal with Twitter. I do not know why.
Well, it's so short. It's hard to get everything in such a tiny paragraph.
Yeah, I love the memes that comes out of Twitter, but I do not understand how do people use this application for real. Like it for me, it's not my type of application that I can use. Maybe somewhere around I will use it again.
Around the world, there's growing focus on mental health of young people, and growing anxiety and depression, especially among girls, and especially anxiety. I wonder if people are talking about that in Egypt, if you see it as an issue or not.
Well, here in Egypt, people still do not understand.
So do you hear girls talking about anxiety and depression, or is that not talked about?
My age, they do talk about it. Yeah, it's very talked about, and we do not like when someone addresses they're having social anxiety, or they're thinking maybe they're bummed out most of the time, and maybe they're going through depression. We as youth, we try to support each other, and we try to address the problem to their parents, and we try to help them address their problem to their parents too, so that everyone can understand that they're going through something huge right now and they need help, and you have to be more understanding of their mood swings and stuff like that. So it is very talked about within my community, with my friends and my family. It's very talked about.
What would you say are patterns in why they're anxious? Like, some people say that girls are more anxious because of social media, and they compare themselves and they don't feel as pretty as somebody else, and body image, and I don't know. What do you see as causes?
Well, it's caused by a lot of things, but social media has a huge hand in it because right now, all we see on social media platforms, or most of what we see, is top models, perfect bodies, six pack, blonde hair, brunette, long hair, healthy skin, flawless looks all the time, makeup on fleek, outfits are amazing, and you see this perfect platform all the time. And these people actually go through a lot to make their platforms this perfect, and they do not share their how hard, yeah, hectic it is and how hard it is to reach this point. And that makes girls think that it's easy to do that. It's easy to have the perfect body all the time. It's easy to eat healthy and drink the green smoothie, which sometimes tastes the worst, and they just don't show that. And this is like the pressure we get as young women from social media is very hard, and it's very effective in a subconscious way. Like, I can say I'm not affected by it, but when you think about it, when I wear outfits, I see like, would people like this more than I would say, would I love to wear this outfit? So it's a way that they start to control our minds and how we think and how we function in a subconscious way that you do not know that they are controlling you unless you are very well educated about this problem and this specific subject. And social media platforms actually started to have people who actually show you how hard it is and walk you through the process, and do not edit their pictures before they post them, and do not put on the filter when they're having a conversation with someone. And when they meet people, they do not act this perfect person who does not get mad, sad, angry most of the time. So I'm optimistic about the social media platforms, that because people from with good intentions and with this huge deal of trying to make other people very conscious about how hard it is to do certain things, and they're doing their best to reach people out. So this is a very good thing for social media platforms, and it's helping people not to have as bad of an anxiety as before.
What about the numbers of people who are, let's say, in rural areas who don't have computers, and can they access social media on their cell phones, even low-income farmers?
Yeah, everyone has a Facebook account. Not everyone knows how effective it is, and not everyone knows how to deal with it properly. But everyone is going through a phase when they have a social media platform, either one or two, or even if they don't have, they're always updated by what's happening. Because, for example, here in Egypt, you can find a farmer who has an Android phone with a Facebook account and a WhatsApp account, and he tells you, like, if he's lost and want to get to your place because to do your lawn or something, he tells you, like, could you send me your location on WhatsApp? And this is how normal it became. Like, it's not a weird thing to have a WhatsApp. It's not a weird thing to have a Facebook account for these people. It's how good you are at using these things is what differentiates you from others. And this is, everyone has everything on social media, I guess. Everyone can use the internet, and everyone, as people, we always love to joke and laugh about the serious situations that we go through. So social media is a huge platform that we all laugh in, we all connect in. So we all do have social media platforms here in Egypt, I guess.
Interesting. In terms of organizing and being an effective change-making groups, recently, but globalization, anti-globalization movement, the movement of squares in 2011, there's an emphasis on, we don't want hierarchies. We want a flat organizational structure. We don't want bosses and peons. So my question to you is, in groups that you're involved with, how do you get things done so things happen without a kind of military hierarchy?
I'd say here, as in the things I do and I'm participating in, we do have like a board team, but we never do something without consulting the rest of the team. Like, as an ambassador for Egypt for the collation, I do not do anything without getting back to my national team and my international team. We all think together. I'm the one who passes the votes from my national team to the international team and give them their ideas. Like, I'm the one in the middle, so that not everyone would have everyone talking at the same time and every different opinion, and so that we don't clash together. There's like one voice to represent each country, and it's very easier for us to do that. And even in the Rotary Act family, we have a board team, but we are all working together. Like, not because you're the president, you just tell us what to do. No, you tell us what we should do, what is your plan for the year, and this is why we elected you, because we think you have a different side of what's happening and what should be happening in the next few months where you are president. And this, at the end, we all try to do the same project, we all help at the same things, we all invest our time and our ideas in these things. So it's a group project that is led by people to just narrow down the amount of people who talk each other globally or like nationally together, so that if we're having a meeting for the district, the whole district, we do not have to get a place at attendance. We can have just a place with 10 people in it who will talk for those towns. This is why we have boards, and this is why we have leading teams, but it does not mean that they're the one who thinks, who does. We are just the ones who execute on real life. It's the complete opposite.
Where do you see yourself 5 years from now? You'll be graduated from university, doing what?
Well, I hope by the time I would gain more experience in fields that I want to work in throughout my university years. And maybe by the time I'll do something great. We will never know, because I want to do something different. I want to do something that makes me happy and satisfied with my life and how far I've become. But I'm not doing this pressure on myself where, like, by 25, I have to get my own company, start my own family, have my own club. I'm not doing this kind of pressure on myself. I just want to be satisfied and happy and okay with what I have. So I'm just playing it by the day for now.
Okay. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you'd like to add in terms of climate activism or the status of women or anything else that you think, oh, I really want to include that thought?
Well, it's just one thought I want people to understand is that youth power is way bigger than most of the people think. And they should not underestimate a kid going to a huge place, asking people to do huge things. Because before we talk, we think, we plan, we do this huge thing. We got this huge process we do before we start talking to the elders about anything, because we fight our own battle into making sure people take us seriously and making sure people understand how important this thing to us. So just listen to the youth and help them develop and help them take care of their mental health and their selves before anything else, and help them to understand, not discriminate people based on their religion, race, color, shape, whatever it is. So yeah, just, and on the way, try to have fun. It's not a job. It's not something that you have to do for the sake of doing it. Just do it because you love doing this thing. Don't push yourself to be an activist if you do not want to be an activist. So it's an easy thing. The most important thing for me is to be okay and be fine with what you're doing and be happy with what you're doing and having fun along the way. It's not about the destination. It's not about where you will go. It's about the whole journey to it. Like, I love every second of my journey of becoming the person I am today, and I will love every second of my journey to become the woman I will become in a few years, the mom I will be, and the friend I am. So all of these things are the ones who define us and makes us who we are. So have fun along the way.
Why do you think your generation is able to be so confident and to be change makers at such a young age? What is there about Generation Z?
Well, as a generation in a very early stage, we've been through a lot. We basically received the end of the world from our elders. So we're trying our best to change it and to have more time on Earth and have better times over here. So I think it's just something in how we were raised, and we've seen a lot on the very early stages. So this helps us develop into what we are today.
Okay.